welcome back to the Anisha and Sunjay show. My name is Sunjay and I am flying solo today. So today we are going to be diving into podcast tech and we're going to be focusing on the audio component. So this is podcast tech simplified, I guess. So just to recap from last week, if you caught last week's episode, it's out now on YouTube, it's out now on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts. You will hear the first part of this series in which Anisha and I talk about and we break down the entire blueprint that we have learned and discovered over the many years that we've been podcasting on how to create a podcast, right? Everything from the conception, from the idea, from the tech, which we'll talk about today, from post-production, from marketing, monetization. We're going to cover everything. And the idea is really just to demystify some of the things that we see quite often from other people. We hear from people out quite often that where they're struggling when it comes to, getting audio out or getting video out or getting content out full stop. So my plan is to go deep today. So this might be, I'm going to try and stick to the hour, but it might go a little bit over because there's a lot to cover. And because of that, I'm only going to focus on the audio component of the tech today, because of course there's a whole new kind of door behind, a whole new sort of cave behind the video side, which we will discuss because of course video podcast, this is a video podcast. I make no two ways about it. This is exactly what I'm intending to do. But podcasts are still a audio first medium. So we want to make sure that we are focused on the audio. So today we're going to be focused on all things that you need to prepare when it comes to the audio side of podcasting. But before we get into that, I want to just go over briefly touch on a couple of things that we touched on last week, because it kind of links into what we're going to talk about today. So today we are going to cover the tech. We're going to talk about what we need, what we don't need, and where we should be spending our money, if anywhere at all. And I really want to try and convince people that you don't need to buy anything, right? I know that we all have the tech that we need to go out there and produce content, right? If you've got a laptop and you've got a phone, you're good to go. But of course, when we get into this game, it's very easy to get caught up in the hype and we need this, or keeping up with the Joneses. So I want to just show you today that actually there's so much you can do without spending the money. And of course, we will talk about, if you do want to spend the money, what you should spend your money on. So to touch on what we just talked about last week, and last week we preempted this session with the kind of recording environment setup. So if you recall, that was about your room, whether it's a quiet room, whether you've got soft furnishings in the room. I want to try and limit. You want to record a podcast, with the edit in mind. So you record with the edit in mind. And what that means is that you want to try and do as very little as possible when you're actually editing your podcast, or if somebody else is editing your podcast in post-production, right? Because if you're having to fix a lot of things, that you could have probably got a lot of that right in the first place. So having the right environment for your recording or for wherever you're going to record your podcast is really important. So I guess it's easier to cover what is not the right environment. And that would be a typical office. I mean, we were in a room yesterday, actually. We were recording in person at a hospital here in England where we live. And the room was, I should have had a picture ready for it, actually. I haven't got a picture up here ready. But the room was literally covered in hard surfaces, right? So it was a hard floor, no carpets, hard walls, hard windows, hard desks, hard chairs. There wasn't the only soft furnishings in there were the humans that were there. So when you've got an environment where you've got very hard surfaces, what tends to happen is the sound waves will tend to kind of bounce around off all the hard surfaces. And then they end up going back into your microphone. And that creates kind of an echo and a reverb effect. And you probably would have heard that, right? If you've heard someone on a voice note, or when they put themselves on speakerphone on their mobile, and if they've got the phone kind of sat on the table, they're in a large room and their voice is bouncing around everywhere, and it goes into, and it sounds like they're in an echoey environment. So by recording in a room that has slightly softer furnishings, that has like curtains, drapes, we've got a sofa in here, or that's that side, sofa in here on that side. I've got hard blind. I've got blinds here to block out the windows, but I should have actually put curtains there, but I've got hard blinds. So that's not ideal, but that's behind me, so that's not so bad. In front of me here, you can't actually see it. I am actually got a sound blanket on the wall, and that's just to stop my voice, which is projecting this way, not to bounce off the wall and come back into my microphone. So we're going to assume that you've done all you can to get your environment the best that you can have it for this for your recording. So now that we've thought about that, we need to think about actually, let's start to create this podcast. Let's do the fun bit, which is for me anyway, and it should be for you if you're thinking about starting a podcast. It's the actual recording, right? That's what is the nuts and bolts of you producing the podcast, is getting down and hitting record. So the number one thing that you need in order to record a podcast, which is very obvious, is a microphone. Now, everything you see on the desk here, apart from my Stream Deck and my Rodecaster here, but everything you see here can be used as a microphone, right? So microphones can come in all different shapes and sizes, and I want to just go through some of the options that we have on the table here, and then you may have available to you at home. But I also want to kind of talk about start with the least expensive and kind of just work our way up from there. Oops, wrong one. So I'm going to just, I'll go back to this view. Okay, so I'll tell you what we're going to start with. We're going to start with the cheapest and the easiest option. And that's going to be, oops, sorry, I keep doing that. That's going to be this. All right, so we've all probably got one of these lying around. We've probably got multiple of these lying around. But when it comes to a microphone, you already own one, right? Your phone, especially if you've got a more modern mobile phone, your phone has got a fantastic microphone built into it. It's got an audio recorder built into it. You can record very high quality audio straight into it. You don't need to plug anything else into your phone. It literally you just hold it up to your mouth and talk, and off you go. Now, I really think that the phone, if you are just focused, just remember, we're just talking about audio here. If all you're doing is recording an audio podcast, I think the phone is really where you should be starting, right? It really, really is an easy kind of low-hanging fruit when it comes to creating a podcast. And the obvious reason is because you obviously already own one, but also because you already know how to use it, right? Because when it comes to tech, one of the obstacles that I've seen when I've been talking to people about, what tech they should have, and is the overwhelm of trying to figure it out. And, I don't know how to work this, or what does this button do, or do I need this? You got something like this, for example. Not that this is complicated, but you might look at this and go, God, there's so many buttons on here and knobs and dials, and, you have to figure out how to use this thing. Whereas, your phone, you're using it every single day, and, it's easy. You know how to use it. So your phone should definitely be your number one choice when it comes to recording your audio. Now, I will get into apps that you can use on your phone probably in another session when I talk about software, because I want to try and break this down. But when it comes to software, the most obvious choice is, of course, I've got an Apple here, I own an Apple phone. If you have Apple, you have the built-in voice notes app. Is it called voice notes? It's called voice recorder, I think. You have that app that's built into it, and you can export your files from there. I believe in Google, they have a very similar voice recorder app as well. So you have that functionality built in, but there are other apps which you can buy, which I'll talk a bit more about when we get into software. So number one is your phone. You might want to level up your phone, and then you might want to plug a microphone into your phone. So I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to just clear this desk just so we can make it a bit tidy. No, this doesn't really work very well for audio, so sorry if you're listening on audio. I'll try and maybe edit this out if I do. Okay, so we've got our phone. So now we are thinking, okay, cool. So I've got a phone and I want to level up the audio that I'm going to get from my phone. So you've got a couple of options here. So the first one, which I'm going to bring on board, because this is the one that people usually kind of come up with when I say, okay, have you got a phone and what else have you got that you can plug into your phone? Are these, where am I? Maybe your AirPods. So these are, it's very bright here, isn't it? These are your typical kind of wireless headphones, headset. They could be Apple, they could be Samsung, they could be any other brand that you might own. And yes, these of course have a microphone on them, because you would know that because you probably made telephone calls with them. I would, first off, don't use Bluetooth. Okay, Bluetooth is a big no-no. And there's several reasons for that. First of all, the audio quality isn't the best. Okay, so when we're talking about audio, whenever you go wireless, the audio is, I want to be careful what I say here and not say never, but the audio is usually not going to be as good as if you have a wired connection. So there's a question of quality there, first and foremost. The second reason I would avoid using Bluetooth is the lag. So there could be a delay between you speaking and the signal being carried over to whichever device it's going to, in the phone in this case. Now, usually, I mean, the lag is not that bad, especially when you've got an Apple AirPods and the iPhone. The lag's pretty good. It's pretty minimal, but it's still there. And there could be dropouts, there could be issues. And I just find it very unreliable. Now, having said all of that, my very first episode that I ever recorded of my podcast, I recorded using a pair of AirPods and an iPhone. So, and that was purely the reason I did that was because, as I mentioned earlier, I was suffering from that overwhelm, right? I was suffering from, what do I need? What do I get? And I was kind of going deep into all of the tech. And then I just thought, you know what? If I keep going on like this, I'm never going to get a recording out. And that's when I realized I've got everything that I need. Grab your phone, grab your AirPods, and off you go. So look, if that's where you start, that's all good. Oh, it's stuck in like a magnet. If that's where you start, then that's all good. However, I would quickly move on from that, and I did from the very next episode. So where do we go next if we want to level up from our Bluetooth option, which again, we want to avoid using if possible? So there are a couple of options here. Now let's go with cheap and cheerful first and foremost. These, you've all got these lying around. I know you have somewhere. You know what I'm talking about. And they're probably exactly what I'm trying to do now. You're probably tangled in some drawer somewhere. So let me just untangle these first. Okay, so here we have a headset. Okay, so this is a free wired headset this is the one I would have got with a very old iPhone. So you can see there I've got a 3.5 millimeter headphone jack on the end, headphone jack, sorry. Now these have a inbuilt mic. So you can see this bit here. Let's see if I can get that in focus. This bit here is your inbuilt mic. Where is my... Now, the reason I like this headset is because, number one, it is cheap and it probably was free. I mean, you can buy these, but I'd imagine not many people are going out and buying them. It's cheap, it's free, it's easy to use, right? There's not much to it. You just plug it in, of course, depending on what type of phone you got. In this case, I would need a dongle because, that, what am I doing here? That is not gonna go in anywhere there. So you would need a USB-C dongle, then that goes into, but it's pretty straightforward and it's relatively easy. So that is definitely a very, very good option. And the other reason I like this, and in fact, I should have mentioned this right before we kicked off our conversation today, is something called mic proximity. Now, you would have heard me talk about this a lot if you've been following me on social media. I'm going to just pop the other one in. Now, when it comes to microphones, the number one thing that's going to give you good sound from any microphone, doesn't matter whether you spent £1 or you spent £10,000, right, is where that microphone is in proximity to the source of the audio of the sound, right? And that in this case is our mouth. So what I often see is people buying microphones, let's say like this one, which is a shotgun mic that you might put on a camera, for example. Okay, focus. There you go. Yeah. So this is a shotgun mic. This is from Deity. This is the S Mic 2S, and this has got an XLR port. So they might pop this and they might put it onto their camera, which is kind of like, over at arm's distance away. And then they listen to the recording and they wonder why it sounds terrible. It's because they put the microphone so far away from the source of the audio, which is their mouth. And if you look here on this headset, this microphone, even without me doing anything, it's right there by my mouth, right? So there's my mouth, and I'm getting the right side right, and there's my microphone. So you get really good sound from this headset. Now, the beauty of this headset is, even if you're not recording on your phone and you're recording on a laptop, is that you can plug this into your laptop. You can plug this into your laptop and it will recognize it as a microphone, and you can just plug and play and off you go. And honestly, this very, very cheap and cheerful headset has saved me on so many occasions when I've had issue early in the days when I was having issues with microphones and interfaces and all those sorts of things. If I was doing an interview or a Zoom call or even a podcast for other people. In fact, I think I have recorded an episode of mine using this, a remote episode, and it's just because it always works, right? As long as you haven't kind of tangled the wires, but it always works. It's plug and play, and it's reliable. And the audio is pretty good. I'm not going to plug it in now as I'm live and try and show you the audio, but the audio is pretty good with this, and it's versatile. Like I said, you can plug it into a laptop, you can plug it into your phone, you can plug it into any kind of audio recorder and use the microphone from there. So that's your kind of next level up, if you like, from your AirPods. You can get these EarPods, and you can have multiple. There's lots of brands, obviously, that make these. Okay, so we're still with our phone as our microphone, but we're trying to level up where we can go with that. So the next thing you might think about if you're using a phone is one of these, right? So this is a lav mic, okay, a lavalier mic. This is the kind of mic that you would typically clip on to your clothing. So I'll just clip that one on there like that. And then this, and again, it's the same. It's a 3.5 millimeter headphone jack. So we would just plug that in. Again, you could plug that into your phone. That could work here as well if you had the dongle, or you can get something like this. So this is kind of the next kind of level up on that one, and this is a interface for your phone. So this one is for got a lightning connection. This is for my old iPhone. This has got the USB-C, this phone, but you plug that into your phone, and then you can see here it gives you, and you can see them on the picture here, it gives you two microphone inputs. So you can actually take this microphone and plug it in here, and then you can take another one for a guest. So if you're getting into the world of in-person audio podcasts, then you could do really well with one of these interfaces, two of these lav mics, okay, and your phone. And look, I mean, that's your kit. So if I just turn that around and show you here, that's your kit, right? Two of these lav mics, interface, phone, take it anywhere, whip it out, you got yourself a podcast studio. Right. So if you apply all the other principles that we've talked about, mic proximity, you are in a relatively well, I say treated, but it might not be professionally treated, but it could be relatively treated. It has soft furnishings and all that such. Then you're going to get pretty good audio, right? You're going to get pretty good audio. So this is, again, you're starting to spend a bit of money here. So I really think it's important to think before you start investing in tech, is think of the long game, right? Think about if this is something that you really, really want to do and you want to kind of be in it for the long term, you want to be consistent, then I would really advise spending your money now on something that that's going to grow with you, right? So I bought these, again, I've learned from my mistakes. I bought these when I first started thinking, oh yeah, we're going to go out and do in-person recordings, and I'm going to have this mobile kit set up. It's going to be super easy, super simple. And, very, very quickly, I realized that the sound from this is good, but it's not as good as it could be. And that's when I kind of started investigating into different types of microphone. But this, again, is versatile. If you do other things if you do more than just podcast creation, so if you're doing YouTube videos or any other kind of talking head videos, then this type of microphone also works really, really well for that purpose. So that may be a reason or a use case to do it. For podcasts, I don't recommend this type of microphone because the way the microphone is designed is it's designed to be extremely sensitive, right? So what that means is that it picks up a lot of room noise. It picks up a lot of noise. So if you see this mic capsule here, if I put it onto this camera here, so this mic capsule, you can see it's literally capturing audio all the way around this capsule. Can I take this off? No, it doesn't come off. No, it does come off. There you go. So you can see there's the capsule. So there's a little round kind of mesh in there, and that's going to pick up a lot of audio from around the room. And that's just the way these microphones are designed. So they're not really designed for the purposes that I'm suggesting it for today, which is a podcast recording. But, you can be done. I have used them. So when I was in Atlanta recently, we were in a pinch. Well, we weren't in a pinch. Actually, we actually had to go to someone's office to record an episode. And because I was traveling, I didn't take kind of this giant podcast microphone, or two of them I would have needed, and all the cables and everything that went along with that. So I did have a couple of these lav mics, not this one. I had a slightly more expensive one, two of them, in fact. And I did use them, and the room was an office and it had extremely hard surfaces and the audio was terrible. Luckily, I was able to save that audio, and I'm going to talk about how you can save your audio or how you can just master your audio a little bit later when I talk about software in a future session. So yeah, you can use a lav mic, but if you look at the cost of something like this is probably, these mics, the lav mic itself is probably about 30. They probably, if you want a decent one, this is a Rode one, so this is probably about 30-ish quid. I think there's one which is available for about 50. Then I needed two of them, so that pings you up to the realms of 70 quid. Then you need this thing, which is another probably 30, 40, 50 pounds. You're already well over £100. And if you're going to be spending that sort of money at the outset, I would suggest something a little bit better. So I wanted to mention it because, not everyone's budget is different. And I'm not, even though I'm saying I'm going to talk about something better, that doesn't mean that you can't use this, right? I'm not going to mention something if you can't use it, but I'm going to give you my opinion on whether I think it's, something you should definitely use long term. And my opinion on this is no. But if I was traveling now, for example, with Anisha, I've made the mistake in the past of taking a lot of gear with me when we've gone traveling just for family holidays, because I thought, we'll record a podcast. And then we end up never doing it, or we don't do as much as we intended to. So something like that, I would probably, stick this in my bag, and I always have a camera with me anyway, so I've always got a video camera. Then this could be useful if you have that, just to kind of be mobile. That would probably be my use case for this now. Okay, so we've got... we have got your lav mic. We've covered your cheap headset mic. We've covered your what did we cover? The phone. Sorry, the phone was the other microphone. Okay, so now let's level up a little bit more, right? We're starting to spend a bit more money. We're starting to think, okay, what else can we buy? Then, of course, one of the downsides of this, which you probably noticed already, is the wire, right? So, we're living in this kind of wireless era, this wireless age. But remember what I said, right? I think wired connection is going to give you better audio most of the time, right? 90% of the time, I believe that a wired connection is going to give you better audio. Hence, this and this are my first two picks when it comes to your microphone options. But you can go down the wireless route. And of course, that's when these types of devices come into the mix. Okay, so you've got this these DJI, and these are Rode as well. These are the Rode Wireless Pro microphones. They come in a little case like this, and you've probably seen these. Oh, that's the wrong one. But anyway, it comes in a case like this, which they charge in as well. And these are really good. I have to say, I've been really impressed. I've had more experience of using these Rode ones. This actually came with my Osmo Pocket 3 camera. So I've only got the one of these. I don't have the receiver, but also very, very good. Now, these are convenient. They're easy to use. They're plug and play. You just got this, you got this clip on the end of it. And you've probably seen, if you watch YouTube videos or even on podcasts, you would have seen people clipping this on to their clothing. There's one of the problems straight away, which I don't like, but they'll clip that onto their clothing, and they will then turn this is the receiver, and they'll turn this on, and then this will plug in. This can actually plug into your phone, right? So if I grab this again, and I take a cable from here. So you can take a USB-C cable, you can plug that into your phone, and then you can plug this into here. Where is it? There you go. So now that is going to receive a signal from this. Okay, so if I turn this on, in fact, I'll do it now, you can see it. So if I start talking, oh, he says, sod's law when I try and do a demo. Anyway, trust me, it does work. So you plug that in, you turn that on, and you can just start talking into this. Now, there is a windshield available for this one as well. I think it's going to be in the box here. There you go. Yeah. So you get these. Get the right one. Yes, you get these little windshields which you can also pop on. They can just go on there like this, and then you have a nice little setup there. Whoops. And you've probably seen you can hold these. Mic proximity. Now, be careful with mic proximity on these ones. I've noticed a lot of people holding these really, really close to their mouth. Now, there is, I don't want to get into it in this session, but these Rode Wireless Pros, they record in something called 32-bit float. Now, 32-bit float is a little bit like if you take pictures, you know that you can take pictures in JPEGs or you can take RAW. Okay, now RAW pictures contain way more data. You can do much more editing. You can push the colors around. You can just get more out of that image than you can with a JPEG. And of course, the RAW file is like 10 times the size. It's the same with 32-bit float. It's a little bit like capturing more data in the audio track. Now, the reason people use that is because often if you are too loud into the microphone and you clip, which is when it goes into the red, within 32-bit float recording, you can recover that. You can bring that level down when it's been clipping, and it will sound great. Now, the trouble with that is when you're using a microphone like this, and people think, oh, it's got 32-bit float, so I'm going to just hold it there, and then they just go ahead and they just shout into the microphone. What happens is that they end up, let me just put that bit closer there. You see this capsule? You can see there's a little mesh. That's the microphone bit there. And what ends up happening is if your voice is too powerful, you'll end up shaking. You'll end up rattling that little mesh piece, that little microphone capsule. And when you start, if your voice is physically moving that capsule, it's going to knock, and that is going to be recorded into the audio track. Now, there's no 32-bit float, there's no 62-bit float, there's no 128-bit float that's going to be able to recover physical sound, that is physical vibrations from within the capsule. So be very careful when you're applying mic proximity with a microphone like this. But these are very, very good for podcasts because I have used them for podcasts before. They do pick up a lot of noise, very similar to the lav mics as well. So let me get my lav mic back. Look, how did that happen? I literally just put those down and look, they're tangled. It's like magic, isn't it? It happens all the time. I just put it down separately and they somehow got attracted to each other. Anyway, you can plug your lav mic into this. So one of the benefits is if you do want to kind of combine the best of both worlds, if you want wireless, right? So we said that this has got a wire. Well, you can turn this into wireless by basically simply taking this, and you'll see if we just remove this. There's a connection here which we can move that into the right place. There you go. So I can pop that onto there, and now I can clip that onto my waist or onto my clothing, and then I can clip that up here, and now I've got a wireless setup as well. So that's one option, or second option you can do with this. The third option, which I really like when it comes to these Rode Wireless Pros, is this handle, right? So you get this little handle, which is quite cool. Now you have to pay for it separately. It doesn't come with the package. But what you do is you basically take your microphone and you just simply plug it on or slide it on like that, and you get your little windshield. You pop that on top, and now you've got a really good handheld microphone that you're getting really good mic proximity. You're getting close to the mouth. You've got some wind protection. You've got some windshield so you can protect yourself from blowing out that capsule. And I'll tell you what, we recorded an episode. We're using these microphones, Anisha and I, at a hotel restaurant at breakfast, right? So at the time there was like noise everywhere. You can imagine it's breakfast, right? So there's like plates and knives and forks clinking and clanking and people speaking and laughing. There was music on in the background. But because we had this on and we had it quite close to our mouths and we used some post-processing as well, the audio turned out really, really good. So I've been really impressed with these Rode Wireless Pro microphones. You know, if you are going to spend, look, this is not cheap, right? This is an option that the Pro ones, I think they run around about 300, 200. You probably get them for 250. It's Black Friday at the moment, so you might be able to pick up a deal. It's quite expensive, right? So if you were going to, again, depending on your use case, if you knew you were going to be mobile, if you knew you were going to be traveling a lot, then these are really, really useful, because you can see that you just literally, size of this, you just chuck that in your bag, you just chuck the handle in your bag, maybe you might have two of them, and off you go. So they're very convenient. However, you can spend less and get potentially better. Yeah, I'm probably chancing myself saying that, but you could spend less and get better sound. So it really does depend on your use case, right? So if you are going to be the type of podcaster who's going to be sat at your desk at home and pretty much never go anywhere, then you probably don't need a wireless option like this. I just had a comment from Lee. Hello, Lee. Nice to see you. Lee says, with the DJI mic, if you click on the button whilst it's already on, it shows 3 bars in the receiver, but don't know it's significant. Yeah, that's a great question, Lee, and I'm afraid I can't answer that for you because, as I said earlier, I'm very new with this. I actually got this with this is the DJI Osmo Pocket 3 camera. I don't want to change subjects now, but this came as a package with this, and this just syncs up to this, and that's how I use it. So I don't actually use the DJI mic for, I've never used it in a kind of a podcast or a YouTube video recording setting. But I will find out for you, Lee. I will figure that out for you, and I will let you know what that means. I think it's something to do with the connection status, but yeah, I'll figure that out. Oh gosh, destroying everything out. Cool. Okay, so where are we at? You could spend less, right? So let's talk about that. So I'm going to just move this along. Oh, by the way, you don't have to just plug this into your phone. Of course, this is USB-C, right? So you can just plug this into your laptop, and you can use this for your Zoom calls. You can use it for your video conferencing, whatever you want. And of course, you can use it with your phone. So that might be another use case for you. If you want to keep your kit small, you don't want to have too many different types of things. If space is a premium, if you're living the van life, for example, which I hope to one day, then this might be the best solution, right? It's small, it's compact, doesn't take up any space. That's really, really good. So yeah, so this is versatile in that sense. I'm going to move my phone out of the way. Okay, so let's move on to kind of more what we think of when we talk about microphones. Now, something I should have mentioned at the outset is that there's multiple different types of microphones. The main two types of microphones that most people will come across when they're looking at microphones is dynamic microphones and condenser microphones. So there's two main types. So I've got some examples here. In fact, let me pull them up. So here I've got a dynamic microphone, which is this one here. And I've got a pencil condenser microphone, which is this one here that I showed you earlier. Now, the main difference between these two microphones, there's several differences between these two microphones, is the capsule inside, okay? The way that the capsule operates. So you can see the size is very, very different. And the way that they pick up sound is also very, very different. So let me just show you this one here. You can kind of see on this one, there's these slots. Now, all of this area here is the microphone capsule, right? So any audio going into here, this is the pickup. This is where it can pick up audio. So this microphone picks up audio from quite a large area. Now, when it comes to this type of microphone, now this is a dynamic microphone and this is your condenser microphone. When it comes to a dynamic microphone, it's more directional, right? So wherever I point the microphone, right, is where the audio predominantly is going to come from, right? So you can probably see on this microphone that I'm using here. In fact, if we see if I can switch to this shot, no, you can't see it. Yeah, okay, I'll just point to it. So this microphone is also a dynamic microphone. Now, if I move around the side and I move around here and I speak from the microphone in the back, you probably still can hear me, but it's not going to be as clear as if I'm all the way around here. And now I'm speaking right into the microphone. So you can see that with a dynamic microphone, the direction is really important. And the other thing about these microphones is that they don't pick up as much of the room noise as possible. Don't pick up as much of the detail. So what are the use cases? Well, these are typically I say, not always, but typically used in professionally treated rooms. So going back to what I said earlier about having a treated space, having a space which has got soft furnishings in. If you're in a studio, if you go to a recording studio, drum kits, musical instruments are typically mic'd up with these types of microphones because they pick up all the different sounds. They pick up so much noise. Now, if you record your voice, I've actually done a test recording my voice on both of these. And with this one, at the same mic proximity, you can hear like mouth noises and those clicking noises, and a lot of that detail comes through. Whereas on this microphone, you don't get much of that as you do with the condenser. So dynamic mic, directional, it rejects noise from the outside, and especially if you're in an environment like at home, right? Most of our home studios or our home offices or even your work office, right? They're not treated spaces. They're often got hard surfaces. So for that, I would highly recommend a dynamic microphone because it's just more directional and it's going to pick up less of that environmental room noise as well. So dynamic microphones are better, in my opinion, than your condenser microphones for most people when it comes to recording a podcast. If you're recording in a professional studio and it's treated, that's a different conversation. We can get into the conversation of condensers. The good news is that typically, not always, but at the budget end of the price range, your dynamic microphones are going to be more cost effective than your condenser. And another main difference between the two I should add is your condenser microphones will require power, phantom power. So require 48 volts usually of power, which will need to be supplied to it. Whereas this one doesn't require any external power per se. So you've got yourself a dynamic mic. Now, the trouble is, you're thinking, let me switch to that one. The trouble is, where do I connect that, Sunjay? Okay, so this is a very, very cheap and cheerful dynamic microphone. It's the XM8500 by Behringer. I think it's Behringer. Very good brand. They make lots of professional level audio equipment. It's not super expensive. This microphone was £15. Yep, 15 quid. All right. And we still use it. Right. So Anisha's Pharmacist Diaries episodes, if you watch the episodes on her Pharmacist Diaries channel of when she's doing remote podcast episodes, you will see this microphone with a windshield. Where's my windshield? Here it is. You will see this microphone with a little windshield on it, and the audio is very, very good. So, for a 15 quid microphone, I've got rid of a lot of microphones in my time. I've kept this one because I just really like the sound. I really like the audio. Maybe it's just I like Anisha's voice. I don't know, but I really like the audio that comes out when I'm editing Anisha's episodes and I'm listening to the audio. I'm like, wow, the audio is so good from this microphone. I can't fault it. So for 15 quid, you really can't go wrong. Now, as I said earlier, this has got a different type of port. So this is not a USB microphone. So when we were talking about plugging in your Rode or your DJI mic to your computer or to your phone, obviously this one is not going to do that. However, you can buy USB dynamic microphones, right? So there are several on the market right now. I actually don't own one myself. The one I would recommend if you're on a budget is the, what's it called? I think it's the Samsung Q2U, I think it is. Let me just find that microphone. I'm going to just show it to you here. Yeah, there you go. Let me see, how do I do this? 3, there you go. So this is the microphone that I would recommend. So this is a USB. Now, the reason I love this microphone is because not only is it a USB microphone, but it's also an XLR microphone, right? So it's got both. So if you look on the back of this picture here, you can see it's got a USB output and it's got an XLR output and it's got a headphone output. So you can monitor your audio from within the microphone. Now, I used to have this microphone. Actually, I still do own this microphone. I've let someone borrow it, so I will be getting that back at some point. So I lie, I have got a USB microphone. I just don't have one on me right now. So this is the microphone that I would recommend if you are on a budget. You saw this, 86 quid. You can buy that relatively, I've seen it as low as 60, 69 pounds in sales. And if you think about the cost of the Rhodes, for example, which are like several £100s, if you're a podcaster, this Samsung cheap and cheerful microphone is going to be all you really need, right? If you're going to be at home, you're not going to be mobile, you're going to stay in one place. I prefer the sound when it comes to podcasts from this than I do from your wireless microphones. Now, that's just my personal preference, but I think if you ask most people who know what they're talking about when it comes to audio, they will probably agree and say the same. Cool. So how do we use this? If we don't have the USB option, how do we use this type of microphone with our computer? I'm going to talk about that in the next section because I want to just cover off different types of dynamic microphones. So the next type of dynamic microphone I've got is the one that I'm actually using here. I've got another one here. So this is the ones that we use for our podcast episodes. And this is the Rode Procaster, I think it's called. Yeah, so Rode are a Australian company. They make a lot of good quality audio products, usually microphones, mainly microphones, but they've got into the world of video. As you can see, I've got the Rodecaster video here as well. And this is probably a step up from the Samsung one I showed you. So this is about £140. So it's not, it's not super expensive, but it's not kind of the super budget end. And I'll be honest, I bought these because it's going to sound silly, but I just like the look of it. I just thought, it looks quite cool. It's kind of like, it's long and thin and it's kind of like got this, this really tough metal body construction. And I just liked the look of it. And luckily the sound is very good as well. So I ended up buying 2 of them. And these are the microphones that I'm going to stick to for the foreseeable future because I really enjoy the sound from them. I'll talk about what this thing is on top in a moment. So that's your other type of dynamic microphone. Let's get into how we connect these to our computer or our devices. So to connect a XLR microphone to your computer. So now we're assuming that you're going to be connecting to your computer. You're going to be logging using Riverside or using Zoom or using some kind of conferencing software to record your episode. Then you will need an interface. So I want to actually, before I get into interfaces, you can see this is a little bit all over the place. I want to just cover off something that I forgot when it came to microphones, and that is this. So I didn't mention the headset microphone. Now, this is another really, really good, cheap option. If you're going to be at home, you're going to be at your laptop, you're going to be just doing remote podcast episodes, and you just want something that works. That's plug and play. There's no hassle. This is a really good option, right? Again, you've got headphones so you can hear the guests. So we'll talk about headphones in a moment, but these are really important to have headphones. So you can hear your guests through your ears. You've got mic. Look at the mic proximity, right? This is super close, right? So you're going to get really consistent audio when it comes to these headsets. Now, as for my day job, I produce podcasts and do videography for a coaching business. And we actually have a podcast as well. And we send our guests one of these through Amazon in the post for every episode, right? So we literally just, we just order them if they don't have a microphone, our executive assistant will just order one of these and send it to them, and they get to keep it, right? Because it's like, I don't know, it's like 25, 30 quid, $30 or whatever it is. And again, I was been quite surprised with the sound. Now, mileage will vary depending on how much you spend. This is a Sennheiser one, so this is a Logitech one, sorry. This is a Logitech one, so it's relatively decent quality. And then, of course, you have these kind of inline controls as well that you can kind of, you can mute, you can turn the volume up, you can answer phone calls. So you've got some controls on there as well. So yeah, really good option if you're on a budget, headset mics. Right, now let's talk about interfaces. Right, so I'm going to get my interfaces on the go here. So I'm going to just put these down on the table so you can see. Now, all of these that I've put on the table now, so we've got 1, 2, and 3. All of these can be used as an interface. So what is an interface? Well, an interface, an audio interface that is, sorry, I should give it the correct terminology. An audio interface, simply, you can see on the front there, it's got your XLR, where is this on the other end? XLR input here, right? So you would take an XLR cable, which, if you don't know what one of those looks like, it looks like this. So here I've got an XLR cable. So you'll take one end of that. That will go into your microphone. So that goes there like that. You take the other end of this and you plug that into your interface. Okay, so now that's plugged in. And now your interface has got, where is it? It's got a USB-C connection. So you'd connect that into your computer, and then that would just pop up as an audio source in your Windows computer or your Mac operating system. And you can just select that when you're in your Zoom call or your Riverside call, and you will take the audio from that interface. That one I had, the Scarlett Solo, is probably the one I would recommend. It's not super expensive. There are cheaper ones available. I think that one is about, about 70 to 80 pounds. I'll put all the links in our Amazon storefront, so you can go and check that out after, so you can see all the latest prices. And of course, it's Black Friday at the moment. So if you are interested in anything, that we've seen, then or anything you've seen, do go and check out those links, and you might be able to get yourself a little bit of a deal on some of these items. So yeah, so interfaces. So you could use something like the Scarlett Solo. You can also use something like this, which is a Zoom H6. Now, I'm going to talk a bit more about this later, because this is getting into the realms of recorders as well. Now, this is a recorder as well as an interface. And then you've got something a little bit more not complicated, sorry, a little bit more advanced, should I say, which is this Rode Streamer X. Now, this is a little bit more advanced because as you can see on the back here, not only does it take an XLR microphone input, but it also takes a HDMI video signal as well. So when we talk about video podcasts, this I'll be talking about a little bit more because this is really, it's been a bit of a game changer actually in the video podcast world. So I will talk about that in a future live stream. So yes, you will need an interface. You can get interfaces for as little as, I think I bought one for Anisha, which is about £40. Again, it's on our Amazon storefront. If you go to our Amazon storefront, in fact, I can show you that. I can show you that now. Oh, you don't want to see that, do you? Whoa, infinity. Where's my storefront gone? There it is. Yeah. So, sorry. There we go. Okay, so if you go to our Amazon storefront, you can see that out here, that's the one, the Behringer. So this is the one that this is the one we still use. This is the one that Anisha uses. She uses this very mic. You can see it's £44 and it's just very similar to the one I showed you earlier. Cheap and cheerful. So you got 44 quid. You pick yourself up a £15 mic. You know, you've got a really good podcast setup for well under £100, well under £100. So that's a really good option as well. Are you still with me? Anything in the chat? Let me just make sure I haven't missed anything from anyone. Oh, I missed Lee. Sorry, Lee said, I recorded a podcast with both settings, but couldn't notice the difference. Nice one. Yeah, I'll figure that out for you, Lee. I'm not sure what that is. Okay. So we have talked about interfaces, we have connected to our computer, we've talked about microphones, we've talked about different options. Let's talk about recorders. So, of course, you have a microphone, you have an interface, you need somewhere where you are going to actually record the episode, right? The audio file needs to be recorded somewhere. Now, that's where something like this really comes in handy, and no pun intended, this is called the handy recorder, H6 handy recorder. And this, simply as you can see, you can plug in your XLR microphones. Now this takes 4 XLR microphones, and in fact I should have mentioned this earlier, this has a microphone built in. So this capsule on top is actually a built-in microphone. So we can use this. You could literally just, in fact, again, we have recorded an episode using this. All of this gear I have it, but I have actually used it. You could literally just mount that. There was a thread on the bottom. You could put this on the stand and you could just have that here, you know, close proximity to your mouth. You know, so proximity wise, I should have said this. Some people do kind of a fist. I find that is a bit too close for me personally, the way that I speak. So for me, I kind of do this, try and spread my fingers as far as possible or wide, and I try and do that. So if you look at my microphone here, that's kind of the distance I've got it. So that kind of distance, and you can record straight into this. This can also connect as an interface. So if you wanted to have a 2-in-1, right? So if you could have this at your desk and you can whip it out and you can take it with you on the road, or you can take it somewhere else, or you can set it up in a different room with your XLR mics and you're good to go. So yes, it also has a microphone, but of course it's mainly a recorder. So you have a, excuse me, you have an SD card slot on this side over here, and you will plug your SD card in and then you will simply switch it on. Let's see if we can switch it on. No batteries. Yeah, no, it's on. There's batteries. So this is battery powered as well. So you can see that, there you go, it's firing up. There's no SD card at the moment. And you simply have got 4 channels here. You set your levels, you hit record, and Bob's your uncle. You're good to go. So I highly recommend one of these. This is kind of like one of the OG podcast, excuse me, recorders. There was a H4 before this. And if you go back many years, you'll see a lot of people that maybe started video podcasts in the early days. They would have had a Zoom F6 or a H6 or a H4 where they would have recorded all their audio into. Really solid, really reliable. and it does work. Of course, you can use your phone as a recorder as well. That would work as well. So that does the trick. But I like to, again, just have something that's separate, that's reliable, that I know. The trouble with your phone is it does everything, right? It does everything. It's a calculator, it's a calendar, it's a phone, it's a mobile, it's a MP3 player, it's a camera, it's everything. And it's hard to keep using it all of the time. And again, you're getting into the realms of having multiple phones for multiple, I know people that have multiple iPhones because they want to use the iPhone as their camera, so they buy multiple. Now, that's cool, but you could buy a lot better camera, in my opinion, than spending the £1,000 on an iPhone. Excuse me. Okay, so where do we get to? Sorry, I've lost my train of thought. We got to interfaces, and we got to recorders. Yes, we got to recorders. So, yes, record on here. You can record on your laptop. I haven't got a spare laptop to show you, but your laptop right now, I am recording this on my laptop, right? I'm using a software called Ecamm Live, and the audio from my mouth is being recorded onto my computer's hard drive. I'm also recording this externally onto the Zoom. You can see there's a little record option here. In fact, you can't see that, can you? Let me see. Oops. Yeah, you can see here I'm recording on this one as well. So you can record into here, but I'm also recording onto my laptop over here as well. Stop pressing A. Keep pressing A. Got to stop doing that. Right. Okay. So you've got your recorder. It connects your mics to it. You record to your SD card, and you're good to go. To be fair, I think I've done pretty well and covered quite a lot of gear in quite a short space of time. So I'm very impressed with myself because I do like to talk, and that's quite impressive. So if you've got any questions, drop them in the chat. Let me know what your thoughts are, any queries. I want to just touch on a couple of other things that you will need when it comes to just leveling up your audio. I've covered the basics, right? I've really covered. If you stopped here and you got yourself a microphone, whether it was a lav mic, whether it was a wireless mic, whether it's a dynamic or a condenser mic, and you got yourself some kind of interface to connect it to your computer or somewhere to record it, you're good to go. Right, you are absolutely good to go. You do not need anything else. However, there are other things that will make the sound a little bit better. It will, maybe not better, well, yes, better, I guess, if you're removing certain noises that you don't want. So remember I said earlier, always record with the edit in mind, right? So what that means is there's certain things you can do. Room treatment is one of those things. The other thing is what you have on your microphone. So I've actually been making a bit of a mistake with this because I've been calling, I'll just use this as an example. I've been calling this soft spongy bit a pop filter. It's actually not a pop filter, and it's just a slip of my tongue. I did know it's not a pop filter, but it's just what comes out. This is a windshield, right? So this just protects the microphone from kind of wind noises. So your breath, right? Your breath effectively is wind, isn't it? So when you're blowing into a microphone, that type of noise, if you've ever heard it recorded, it's not very pleasant, right? And it often blows the capsule out as well. So having some kind of windshield on your microphone is really useful. You've got one for the where's my pencil mic? There you go. Sorry. So you got the shotgun mic. This also has a windshield like that. So you just pop that onto the end, and that just blocks out a lot of that wind and unwanted noise. So a windshield is very, very recommended because, as I said, it does cut out a lot of that unwanted noise. And of course, it can also act as kind of a pop filter. So what is a pop filter? So a pop filter is supposed to take out a lot of the popping noises that you might come from your mouth. Now, this little thing that I'm using on this microphone is a pop filter for this microphone. So this is like a bit of mesh that's just sitting in front of the microphone. And as I'm talking into it, it's taking out some of those plosives. They're called plosives. So I'm going to just talk. So on the side of this microphone, you can see it's not got the pop filter on it. So if I go around the side, I'll try and keep a similar distance. But now if I go Peter Piper picked a pepper, and then I go here, Peter Piper picked a pepper. I've done the test before and I know that sounds different. So I'm hoping that if you're listening to this, if you had headphones on, it probably sounded better, but you might have noticed a difference there. So a pop filter is really, really useful for taking out some of those plosives from your mouth. You can combine a windshield and a pop filter as well. Don't know if you really need to, but I guess if you're doing stuff like voiceover work, or I guess a podcast does fall into that realm, you want to have good audio, yeah, why not use both? I think there's if you're going to make the sound better, you're going to make the sound better. Up until recently I only had a windshield on my microphones. I've got a big one for this one. I don't have it to hand here now. I thought I did, but I don't. But recently I've switched over to the pop filter because I just noticed that there's a lot of plosives in my recordings. So yes, you will need a pop filter of some sorts. I'll keep doing it. Okay, so I want to just zoom this camera out, actually, see if I can do that. Oh, yes, I can. There you go. You see the mess on my desk. Now I'm going to just bring this microphone over without making too much noise. Now you can see this contraption I've got on here. This is quite a large bit of kit. This is a shock mount, right? So a shock mount, as you can see here, the microphone, it kind of wobbles a little bit. So this effectively is like a suspension. It kind of suspends the microphone in midair. There's these elastic bands that kind of holding this microphone in space. And the idea is when you're on a desk like this, and you kind of bang the desk, there's vibrations will go through the desk, through the stand that you're using, and into your microphone, and then it will record into your audio. So a shock mount is designed to take some of those shock waves, those vibrations out. And I've only put this on for the purposes of this video. I typically don't use one because I don't usually have this microphone sitting on my desk. I usually have my boom mic. It's normally boomed in front of me. So what I normally have is this mic. And for mic proximity, so that's where it's in the shot. I would literally have it here. Now, if I was keeping mic proximity, it would be there in the shot, but I just keep it slightly out of shot. And that gives me good audio for kind of talking head. Now you can see today, because I'm recording a podcast, this is going to be for a podcast episode, I don't use this microphone. Right? I prefer to use the sound from this because this picks up way too much of the room noise. And you can just hear that when you record it and you turn it up. Record silence. That's the best way to know, right? If you want to test this out yourself, grab your recorder, whatever you use, grab your microphones and just record the silence in your room where you're going to be recording, and then play that back and crank it up and see what you can hear. You'll hear a hiss, but one will be more prominent than the other. And in my testing, the hiss, the room floor, the noise floor from the room, from this microphone is a lot more than from my dynamic microphones, such as this one. So you need a pop filter or a windshield. The next thing you will need is a stand. So you want to put your microphone down somewhere. I'm going to just grab my cheap microphone again. So this is a very, very cheap kind of, it's probably like £10 on Amazon. You can get one of these. You just pop your microphone in here. You can adjust the height. You can go up and down. And this is the actual stand that you'll see Anisha using. So you can see here, that just sits, again, I'll put that about there, and that just sits on your desk. And if you're podcasting, this is a perfectly good position for your microphone. Puts it nice and close. It's not too obtrusive in the picture. You can just see the microphone in the shot there. I know that a lot of people prefer these microphone boom arms. I've actually got a couple behind me on that stool. They're the Elgato. They're the low profile ones, so they're actually pretty good. But most people use the large ones, and I haven't got one. I actually have got one here, but you can't actually see it. It's holding my iPad over here. But I don't like them, right? I just don't like them. They're just too big. And in fact, I'll bring it over. You can see it, right? It's like, it's just, you can't really see it in the shot, but it's just it's massive, it's bulky. I'm not a fan of microphone boom arms. Now, if you're recording audio only, then I don't have a problem with it. It's when you're recording video that it bothers me, because what you'll find, and I should have had some images ready for you to see, but what you'll see is, you'll see a lot of people have this amazing video shot, and then I have this giant boom arm, literally with the microphone like in their face like that. And then you can't kind of see what's going on. And you've got this big boom arm coming into the picture. Again, it's a personal preference. I'm not saying it's wrong. I just don't like it as a personal preference for my broadcasts and for my recordings. So I prefer to have a stand. This is a cheap stand. The one I'm using here, again, you probably can't see it too well, but stop doing that, Sunjay. This is kind of a quite heavy duty stand, which I can maneuver and move around. And yeah, this works really, really well for this microphone. I can keep it kind of to the side of my desk here, and I can have my keyboard down here, which is where it usually is. And my microphone is basically just there wherever I need it. So get yourself a stand of some sort. Oh, and here's a shock mount, by the way, for my condenser microphone. So here, this would go into here like that. And then you got that shock. So you can see these rubber bands that I was talking about. Let me just give you, these rubber bands here. So they kind of just suspending this mic, as you can see, as I vibrate it, it will just kind of, it won't send any of those vibrations into the capsule, because if you've got kind of, like a hard material and you vibrate this, then it will transfer into that capsule. Okay, last thing I want to talk about today, and that is something that I'm not doing today because I'm not monitoring my audio, or I'm not talking to anyone, but that's headphones. So you will need to get yourself a set of headphones. Now, headphones are, I personally think they are really important. And I've mentioned this several times, but I'll cover it again here. The reason you want to wear headphones is, there's several reasons. The number one reason for me is when you are recording online. So if you're using a platform like Ecamm, like I am now, or Riverside, or StreamYard, or Squadcast, or Zoom, God forbid, then you're hearing if you're not using headphones, you're hearing your guest coming through some form of speakers, right? So you've got, can you see my speakers here? No, you can't. You're hearing your guest through your laptop speakers. Now, you've got a microphone here. And what's going to happen is that sound is going to come out of your laptop and it's going to travel back through. So this, your guest's voice is going to travel back through the microphone, and then they're going to hear it through their speakers, and then it's going to go into their microphone. And there's a problem here, right? There's a massive problem. There's a big loop. Now, if you ever jumped on the Zoom call or any kind of podcast recording and you hear an echo, whether you hear yourself or you hear your guest, that there's something like that is at play, right? There's some kind of feedback loop. There's something that's going on. Now, usually most of these software platforms, they have a feature called echo cancellation. Now, echo cancellation does exactly what it says on the tin. If you're hearing an echo, you flick on echo cancellation, it turns the echo off. Now, typically that's happening because your audio is coming out of your speakers and you're not monitoring them with headphones. Now, if you have headphones on, then when you're hearing your guest, the sound is going straight into your ears and not into your microphone, right? So that's why headphones are better. Now, you might think, well, Sunjay, I don't use headphones and I have echo cancellation turned on. You may or may not know it, but if you don't have an echo in your recordings, then you have some form of echo cancellation turned on. Zoom has a really, really aggressive echo cancellation. If you've ever heard audio on Zoom, And when two people kind of talk over each other, you can kind of hear it, it just shuts, it really compresses the audio, and you kind of hear someone low, and then it sounds weird. That's because the echo cancellation is at play, and it's quite aggressive. Now, the trouble with echo cancellation, no matter what platform you use, is that you've got this pure high quality audio signal going through, right? Let's say you've got yourself, you got yourself a fancy Scarlett Solo interface. You got yourself a fancy Rode Procaster microphone, and then you've all plugged it all in, and then you go and switch on echo cancellation. Well, what that's doing is adding some processing to your audio, and typically it's going to just degrade the quality of the audio. Now, look, I'm really nitpicking here, right? And this, you may want to just switch off now and go, I'm not interested. I'm just going to the extremes and saying, this is what's happening. And if you can avoid it from happening, your audio is going to be better, right? There's no questions about it. So wearing headphones is the number one reason for wearing headphones, is to not rely on echo cancellation in your software. And that is why you will see a lot of professional podcasters and podcasts wearing headphones, right? So that's the first reason to wear headphones. The second reason to wear headphones is to, especially if you're recording, actually it doesn't matter what kind of recording you're doing, whether you're recording yourself, whether you're doing in person, whether you're doing remote, is to monitor your audio, right? You want to be able to hear what's going on. As I said earlier, record with the edit in mind. If you're monitoring your audio, if you're not monitoring your audio and something happens, I don't know, a cable comes loose, or, there's an interference with the signal, or your mobile phone's sat next to your microphone and you haven't got your headphones on, you can't hear that, that interference signal that you get sometimes. If you're not monitoring your audio, you can't tell if something's going wrong. So having your headphones on and be able to hear what's happening into your ears rather than on speakers, and ideally monitoring your own audio so you can hear yourself in your ears, not with an echo. And a lot of people don't like that. I personally do like it, but that's just a personal taste. I think it's really important to have that feature on. You could turn that yourself down in your headphones, and depending on the software that you use. So I recommend having it on, so just for that reason. And then the last reason for me is simply just to lock yourself into the conversation, right? If you're having a phone conversation with someone, I can't even find my phone now on the desk. You typically have your phone up to your ear, right? And of course, you've got speakerphone nowadays as well. But, you want to make sure that you're locked into the conversation. So when you have your headphones on, you're zoned into what the person's saying, your eyes and your brain, everything is focused there, and you can just hear them better, right? There's no other reason. You can just hear them better. So headphones are important. Now, these are quite large. You may or may not like this look. Again, it's a personal preference. You don't have to go with this type of headphone, right? Let's bring these back. Headphones, right? So you might just use these. Now, I've seen a lot of people do this. You'll see a lot of people on calls. They will have a microphone in the shot, but they will have these on, and they're using this to monitor their audio, right? So this, just having a set of these when you're doing a recording is going to just make a huge difference, because you're not going to rely on that echo cancellation from the software. You could have something like this. Of course, you've got your headset mic, which kind of doubles up again, just like I showed you. So here you've got headphones built in as well. Or you could go for something that's more like these monitors. I'll just show you this screen. Let me just get that zoomed in a bit more. There you go. So you've got these, which are kind of like in-ear monitors. So these are kind of more professional level. These are similar to what you might see, on the TV. If you watch live TV, you watch breakfast TV, all the presenters would be wearing an earpiece. They're talking to the communications room. So these you would just simply plug in to your ears like this, and you probably hide that cable. Probably hide that cable around your ear. So this will go around your ear like that. and then you'd plug that in. So you can still hear what's going on, and it's in your ears, a little bit more discreet. You can't see it. It's kind of not in your face, not ruining your hair if that's something that you're concerned about. So headphones are key. Okay. I think that's it. I think I've covered everything that I wanted to cover today. I was just checking my notes before I go here. Yeah. Cool. Okay, so we've covered quite a lot today in 47, so we're nearly on the hour. I hope you found some of that useful. I've just been kind of doing a bit of a brain dump of what's in my mind. I am more than happy to go into detail into any of the items, any of the products, or any of the categories. If that's something that you want, just let us know, reach out. You can reach out to us at various different places. I'm going to just make sure I don't do this silly infinity screen thing again. Just get rid of that. And I just wanted to show you that we have our Linktree. So if you want to get in touch with us, head on over to our Linktree. The link is in the description. Here you will find links to our Instagram channel, our YouTube page, our LinkedIn profile is there. We've got our Behind the Mic podcasters community. If you're a podcaster and you want to meet like-minded podcasters, share ideas, share and learn, then feel free to come and join us. We would love to have you over there. And then I've got a number of tools. So if you want to use some of the tools that we use, I didn't get a chance to talk about Auphonic. I will talk about this in a future video. This is the top software that I use to master all of my audio. You've got a link here if you want to try that out. Descript is what we use to edit all of our podcasts. We create clips, we put captions, and that's a tool that I highly recommend, especially for new podcasts. It's really intuitive and really easy to use if you're not a pro, if you're not kind of into that kind of pro level workflow. That's a great one. And of course, you've got our Amazon store here as well. So I was going through, we've got all of the things that I've talked about today. They're all in the Amazon store. So if you want to check it out, link is in the description. Go over to our Amazon store. All of these are affiliate links. So if you do click on any of these, you make a purchase, then Amazon or Auphonic or Descript, they will give us a few pennies, and that just helps to keep the lights on. And we really appreciate your support. And of course, we've got the links to the show and the podcast there as well. Fantastic. Thank you so much for joining me. I am just checking that I've covered everything that I wanted to cover. And apologies. Yes, I think I have. I'm still live. Anisha just come in. She's clearly not watching, because if she was watching, you should know that I'm not live. I'm still live. Anyway, look, that's it for me. Thank you so much for joining me, and I will catch you next time.